Hey everyone, and welcome to the Uncorked Corner podcast. Today we are welcoming Cal Spinelli from Runamok Maple, and we are so excited to have her on. So we'll start by having you introduce yourself. And of course, Nick, our co-host, is here with me as well. I forgot to introduce you, Nick.
No problem.
Hey, yeah, thank you so much for having me, you guys. It's a pleasure. I've been with Runamok for about a year, and I'll be just coming up in the new year as my 1-year anniversary. And things have definitely taken off a lot since I've been here, but I got involved just, as everyone knows, it's all about who you know. So my sister actually kind of helped me land the job. She was working at Kodiak Cakes at the time, which is a big brand name, obviously, in the food industry. And, had met one of our, co-owners, Kurt, at a trade show, and, just happened to throw it out there. If you're ever looking for help, my sister lives in Vermont, and he actually happened to take her up on it. They were really, starting to take off, and a lot of our marketing work was just contracted and kind of outsourced. And so they wanted to have somebody, another set of hands in-house to kind of assist. And I've been kind of helping with our social media and partnerships. And a whole bunch of things. My sister had kind of landed me the job because Kodiak and Runamok had partnered up, and they'd done a little bit of a holiday package last year. So yeah, we're really just psyched to be like partnering with some of these, bigger brands, and also Vermont brands. That's something that we really always jump on the opportunity to do. And one cool partnership that's kind of outside of our maple syrup that we did this year in response to the coronavirus pandemic was actually assisting in bottling hand sanitizer. So we had totally stopped production of maple syrup for a couple of months, and only were bottling hand sanitizer that was made by local distilleries. So they had kind of also dropped everything they were doing and putting a lot of their like excess product that would have been put to waste otherwise to this great cause. And it was, I think, hundreds of thousands of bottles of syrup, or of, of hand sanitizer that we had got out. So that was about 5 brands and a local distributor that had helped us with that. So that was kind of a cool side project, and sort of another lighthearted thing to come out of this year.
Very cool stuff. And you mentioned you guys are obviously in Vermont. Can you tell us a little bit about sort of what makes maybe Vermont maple syrup special? What makes it different from maple syrups of other regions, Canada, Maine, Mass? There's a lot of other places up here in the Northeast. I know everyone's always kind of debating Vermont or Canada, what's better, but is there a real difference, or is that all just a fake debate?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think a lot of it is personal preference and bias, for sure. But regionally and even locally, you can actually taste a little bit of a difference in syrup based on where the trees are, how high up they are in altitude, it's really all about the sap content. So it can vary, like even just from tree to tree. But generally speaking, I guess Vermont maple syrup is the best because, like compared to Canada, it's just super large scale up there. So you don't really see like the local sugar makers like you do around here, and families that have been doing it for generations and carrying that tradition. Where I live currently is a small family farm, and we produce maple syrup on a very, very small scale, especially compared to Runamok. But it's really cool to see, how all of the different processes of how it can be made. Here we do it wood-fired, but obviously Runamok is on a larger scale. So we use different equipment, stuff that allows us to produce it faster, and we have a lot larger, gathering tanks and sap collection and things like that. So I've learned a lot about the process of making maple syrup from the old traditional way of like horse and sleigh to the modern method of reverse osmosis, we call it. And it's basically cuts the time down so that we can make syrup kind of as quickly as it's coming in, because our sugar bush is really big, and like when the sap is coming in, it's definitely kind of a similar like all hands on deck, approach. It's actually a 24/7 job. So our sugaring crew works really hard, especially during the sugaring season, which usually falls between March and, April.
Can you tell us a little bit about that process? What actually goes into the maple syrup? I know you talked about taking the sap and then you make the final product, but what actually goes into it? What do you do to sort of manipulate that to make maple syrup?
Yeah, it's something that a lot of people who eat maple syrup don't even know about. I grew up in Massachusetts, for example, and like love pure maple syrup, but I never really knew the labor of love that goes into it. And obviously, it starts from the sap. Like I said, it comes from the trees, but we can only collect that sap during a certain time of year, like I said, which is in the spring when things are starting to thaw out. So the sap is all frozen and stuck in the trees kind of all winter long, which is actually normally when we tap them. So that process can start, usually right around the new year in January. They start super early because we have a lot of trees to cover. We have about 80,000 maple trees in our sugar bush, and we're actually expanding that operation this year to another location that we'll be able to transport that sap in from. But it's definitely all done by hand still. We have a crew of about a dozen to 14 strong hands that cover about 1,000 acres of our sugar bush. And when the sap does start to thaw, it comes out very it kind of comes out like water, I guess, if you were to taste it like straight out of a tree, like how we do here sometimes with buckets, how it's normally been done. It would really just taste like a kind of like somewhat sweet water. So the sugar content in sap, for example, is around 2% when it comes out of the tree. And to make maple syrup, you want to have about 66 to 67% sugar content. So you basically just have to evaporate all of that water out of it, which normally takes a lot of time, or it has traditionally when it's just done over like a wood fire. But we have, some more advanced methods to help us out with that. And we actually, have a vacuum system that helps us kind of suck all of the sap from the trees. And it's done in a very responsible way, and it's not harmful to the trees. We try and keep it on a very low pressure for that, but it is all gravity fed in our pipelines. So when the trees are tapped, it flows through the pipes and downhill. And that's kind of where we collect it all. The pipes will feed into bigger pipeline and kind of make its way down to the sugar house. And, if things get frozen or stuff gets in the way, or there's holes or leaks in the lines, that's kind of where the vacuums help us out. So pretty much all of the sap is collected in our sugar house, and then it is put through reverse osmosis, we call it. So that kind of cuts the water content in half and just saves us a lot of time. So we are working with RO sap is what they'll call it when it goes through the boiler. And that, then goes through the evaporator, and that's like where you see all the steam and kind of that traditional like awesome maple smell. And so, that's when our sugar makers will kind of draw it off, test it, test the water and sugar content, make sure it's right and the color looks right. And then we filter it through a pretty fine filter. And then it's put in barrels and obviously used for our infusions, barrel aged syrups, smoked syrups. And we do obviously bottle our pure maple syrup, which we call our sugar maker's cut.
And you really do have a lot of different flavors. And the sparkle syrup was definitely one of the most fun ones that I took out of the package that we got. I was like, this is awesome for a gift. But what is your favorite flavor out of all the ones you have? I'm sure it's hard to pick, but with so many options, is there one that really stands out for you?
Yeah, that is a pretty hard question because we have such a variety. But I have to say, I think my favorite one is one that we only have right now. It's a seasonal syrup called our Holiday Spice Infused. It just like tastes like a gingerbread cookie in maple syrup, and it's kind of just all of like my favorite flavors wrapped up into one because we have a cinnamon vanilla, a ginger, and that one also has clove and nutmeg in it, so just adds like a little extra kick.
And you have other products as well, not just maple syrup, and they're all made with the maple syrup, right? So is that a different process altogether? And how did you kind of get into those areas?
Yeah, so we just launched this new line of cocktail syrups. They're maple-based cocktail mixers and a line of bitters as well. And that is something that just kind of came out from using our syrups and recommending them for cocktail pairings for so long, and just developing so many cocktail recipes. Our co-owner, Laura, makes all of our recipes that you see on our website, and she's like our main recipe developer. And she is a professionally trained chef, and she's actually written a cookbook, so she's really knowledgeable about all of like the pairings and flavors and combinations with our syrups. But just with the natural kind of pairing, I guess, of maple syrup and cocktails, it's a really great substitute for simple syrup, obviously, and adding all of the different flavors and infusions on top of that really adds a depth of flavor, obviously, as well as the maple, which is a great natural flavor in itself.
Yeah, so for all of our listeners who are used to hearing about cocktails and beers and wine, Runamok has the cocktail mixers and bitters that they're right up your alley. So they're not just maple syrup, pure maple syrup, but you can get kind of both and celebrate National Maple Syrup Day drinking a syrup cocktail. So I love that. For the infusions, how does that work? So how are you infusing the flavors into these different syrups and these mixers that you're making?
Yeah, so we actually have an in-house research and development specialist. Her name's Allison, and she's amazing. And she puts a lot of time into all of our products and development and testing different ingredients from different sources and different ways, whether it's like ground up or whole bean, things like that. So she is like really, really dialed in with the different flavors and nuances of all of the ingredients that we infuse with. And she, starts on a small scale, does it, like I said, in-house, and has her own little setup of all different spices and things. And it was so cool to see her put together the bitters, the maple-based bitters that we developed, because it was really just like the possibilities were pretty endless as far as the herbs and spices and things that we could use for those. So she's really the expert as far as how things are infused. But generally, the syrup is just heated up to a certain temperature, and we try to not go over a certain temperature because it can really manipulate the syrup and turn it it can change that sugar content, like I said, kind of change the flavor. And we actually do produce like maple cream and candies. So, if you do heat it up long enough and to a higher temperature, that has to be very exact, it can get that awesome like maple sugar candy that everyone loves.
Do you have any favorite cocktails with those maple bitters or the cocktail syrups that you guys have now?
The ginger mule has been a favorite for sure. I'm not a huge cocktail drinker, but I do love it in a mocktail. Like, it's really great with just soda water. And we also have like our Green Mountain Mule recipe that's suggested with it. But yeah, we have just for the cocktail syrups, a ginger mule and a maple old fashioned and a smoked maple old fashioned, which has always been, hands down a favorite of our customers and our staff, frankly. And then we also have a maple tonic, which is like a gin and tonic based syrup. So kind of something for everyone, I think. And like I said, they can be used in mocktails as well. So there's still a lot of possibilities beyond the recipes that we recommended with them.
I know I made myself a maple cocktail the other night with, we had Boston Harbor Distilling on recently, and they have a maple cream liqueur. So I did that. I mixed it up with some of the maple syrup, and I rimmed the glass with some too. And it was awesome. Definitely have fun playing around with those.
That sounds awesome. That is a perfect combination. Yeah.
And speaking of recipes, so of course, everybody, or at least I guess I shouldn't say everyone because I'm speaking for myself, but when I think of syrup, I always think of waffles and pancakes. Like, I don't know why, it's just what I put syrup on. But for you, outside of like waffles and syrup and those more, everyday breakfast items, what are some of your favorite foods to have syrup with, or even make a recipe with?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's a hard question because obviously there's so many. First of all, I would definitely recommend going to our website and checking our recipe section if you are interested in any other ideas. But like I said, cocktails are a big one that we definitely recommend our syrups for. But one thing that I hadn't really considered before working for Runamok with maple syrup, even though I've always been a big maple syrup lover, is pairing with cheese. So we do actually have a cheese pairing collection. It's just a small kind of sample size options of 4 of our 2-ounce sizes. So those are some of our favorite syrups to pair with cheese. It actually includes like our elderberry infused and our smoked maple syrup. And yeah, it just adds a really cool flavor to cheese that I had never tried before. And obviously Vermont has really great cheese as well. So I'm lucky enough to be able to pair 2 of the best ingredients. And then, yeah, just as far as like some of the savory options, I always love grilling with maple syrup and using it like as a marinade or glaze. I was all about the maple mustard like glaze this summer and with grilling and stuff. And another one of my favorite recipes is this kind of like Asian inspired teriyaki sauce with our ginger maple. That one is one of my favorite ways to use our ginger maple, which is actually like an award-winning product. It won a Sophie Award a few years ago and is definitely a customer favorite.
Very cool. I know I always like going with something like a maple glazed salmon. That maple glaze when you're grilling something up, it always adds a nice touch. And I know I've had in the past at restaurants actually fried chicken with maple syrup, which is another very good recipe.
Yes, that was actually one recipe that I put on the website myself, was a Japanese fried chicken that's like I said, with that kind of Asian inspired ginger maple like gochujang sauce. It's so good.
And I feel like the fall and the winter is the time for syrup for me, but I love the flavor and the smell, as you mentioned, of maple is just the best. I feel like it's one of those flavors that makes you feel so like comforted and warm, and it's such a good flavor and scent. And today, I didn't mention at the beginning of the podcast, but for everybody listening, you might have seen it in the title. It is National Maple Syrup Day. So December 17th is National Syrup Day. I mean, are you guys celebrating?
I mean, it kind of feels like maple syrup day every day, especially now at Runamok with how busy it's been. The holiday season has just been insane for us this year with our sparkle syrup, like you said. It's just been a total hit, and this has definitely been the busiest holiday season we've had. Even though we've been featured in Oprah's Favorite Things back in 2016, which actually kind of kickstarted the business. It was our first year that we had started. So it was kind of off to a great start, but things had grown pretty steadily since then. And then this year with the sparkle syrup, which we just kind of released as like a feel good, kind of make you smile product. Things have just taken off. We have just had all hands on deck trying to get holiday orders out the door, most of which include sparkle syrup.
I mean, closing out 2020 with some sparkle syrup sounds like exactly what we all need.
Yeah, it's made the perfect gift. I'm actually giving it to a couple of my nephews tonight. So I'm really excited to see how they how they take it.
Party pancakes. Perfect.
Yeah, they love maple syrup. I'm sure they'll love it.
You can't not love maple syrup.
Yes, especially if you live in Vermont. It's like in their blood here.
So what are some of your other favorite Vermont companies that you guys have partnered with? I know you've done a lot looking at your social media and your website. It seems like you guys are really kind of all over the map in Vermont, which is incredible. But what are some of the partners that you kind of have worked with this year that you've done some cool stuff with? Give us a little insight.
Yeah, I would probably say Bar Hill Gin and Spirits is one of our top partners. That is a really well-known national name that we've been super proud to partner with. Our PR agency actually works with them too, so we have kind of like a fun little connection that way. And yeah, like I said, with the hand sanitizer project, Bar Hill really kind of led the force in that. So we were obviously psyched to join with them. And Citizen Cider was another big one that was involved with that. And we actually have a product with them called the Tree Tapper syrup that uses our maple syrup. And that's kind of a limited edition cider of theirs that we're always psyched to be a part of, and seems to be kind of growing every year as well in popularity. So another company that was on the hand sanitizer project was Aquavite Kombucha, and we're actually kind of talking with them right now about working on another giveaway. So definitely stay tuned or follow us on social media if you're interested in that, and hopefully getting in on a nice other bundle of free Vermont products.
We got to get out to Vermont a few months ago when everything was kind of slowed down with the whole pandemic and everything. And we didn't get to get out to Citizen Cider, but we put together a whole roundup of our favorite beer and cider spots from Vermont. And Citizen's Origin series was definitely featured on there, which has that tree tapper. So you guys are right in there with it.
Awesome. Yeah, Citizen is like my favorite, I think, of all of the alcohol options up here, even though my boyfriend actually works at a brewery in Morrisville. He works for Lost Nation Brewing. So
oh, got it. Yeah, I brought home some of that too.
We stocked up when we were there.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, that's right in my neck of the woods. So that's awesome you guys were able to make it up here. It's been crazy with traveling right now.
Yeah, when you said that earlier, when we were talking about what's better, who makes the best syrup and what makes it different, I was just thinking about how when we were in Vermont, everything that we tried was just so good. I mean, like you mentioned too, the cheese up there, we love Cabot. Our friends at Cabot their stuff's amazing. There's just from chocolate to beer to cider to maple syrup. There's just so much goodness in Vermont. So yeah, such a great state.
We're very lucky. And like I said, with travel being like so crazy this year, I haven't like left at all. And I haven't really felt the need to. It's been kind of like a nice little staycation and just getting to enjoy it. And yeah, just like embrace the low key lifestyle here.
So for everyone who's listening, where can people find your syrups, both in store, online, and then where can they find you on social media?
Yeah, so on social media, that's kind of where I am normally hanging out. So you can follow us at Runamok Maple, or visit our website at runamokmaple.com. And if you're interested in finding the nearest store that sells Runamok Maple, you can just check out the store locator on our website, and that is all up to date with retailers near and far, all nationwide, which has definitely picked up a lot. Like I said, with sparkle syrup, we had a lot of new retailers this year that we were psyched to add to the list. So definitely be on the lookout there if you're trying to squeeze in some last minute gifts and can't get them shipped on our website.
Awesome.
Yes. And we also included Runamok before Nick closes us out. We also included you in our New England holiday gift guide. So for anybody who's listening, I know I've mentioned it before. There's so many great places that you can support local businesses, and you can pick it up near you so you don't have to worry about the USPS shipping delays.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for featuring us. We've been fortunate to be featured in a lot of gift guides this year, and even with our awesome PR agency helping us out, a lot of stuff has just kind of organically taken off. So we're really grateful.
Keep baking great maple syrup. We will include links to the website, to the social media below, so you can get them in the description. And we look forward to enjoying more of it. Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers. Thank you guys.
Be sure to follow us on social at Uncorked Corner and on the blog at uncorkedcorner.com for a taste of more food and beverage content.
And if you enjoyed the show, don't forget to leave a comment, subscribe, rate, and review on whatever podcast platform you prefer. Thanks for listening.